Hello everyone, and welcome to the engine bay of my M240i. Today I'm going to be installing the NGK spark plugs. I'm not quite due yet, but my engine's running a little weird, so we'll see if this fixes it. So step number one in the trunk is your battery, so you want to disconnect that 10mm nut from the terminal and disconnect the battery. So the next step is to remove the engine cover. Just pull up slightly. It should not be too bad. There we go. The back ones are pretty easy too. So from here, you can see I had the VR performance intake. I've got a video on that if you want to check it out. And you can see 5 out of these 6 coil packs there, and there. Now, you're thinking there are 6, so why can you only see 5? Well, you got to remove all that junk in the back. So from this back corner, there are 3 10mm bolts, which I have already loosened. They are a quarter turn here, here, and here. They're pretty simple. Now there's going to be 3 more on the other side in similar spots. Here, here, and here. And then you should be able to take out these plastic cups. So just to note, this clip is on the left side. It sits right there. Now you just want to squeeze these 2 tabs together and it should come right out. Okay, so I've taken out both plastic cowls on either side, and my next step was to move this. Now this cover just pops up, but it's secured with a clip there in the corner. So I'm going to rotate it out of the way. That grants us access to this right here, which you'll eventually need to remove to get the plastic weather stripping off. Now the next step is to remove this wire all along the weather stripping in the engine bay, and this should, in theory, pop right out if you pull it towards you. So on the left hand side, there are 3 bolts you have to take out. There's one here, there's one here, and there is one right underneath this hole right there. So the right hand side is similar to the left hand side. You've got this 1 bolt here in the back, and then you've got this one here, and you've got this one right here. But there's also one a little bit under the weather stripping if you move it, one right there. So for these little covers in the back, I used a plastic pry tool and got this off. So the next step is to remove the external Torx E20 bolts from the strut brace. That's the thing. You want to remove the E20s on either side from the strut brace. Now on my car, they are exposed. On some others, I've seen it covered by the weather seal. So figure that out. So I've loosened those 2 E20 bolts, but I'm going to leave them in there so the strut brace can move freely, just to make it easier. Now this rubber cap also moves out of the way, just if that makes anything easier for you. And on this little rubber push pin, I'm going to use a pry tool and get that up. So what I did here is I used this tool and I slowly pried it upwards. Now you can eventually just reach in and pull that right out. And that pin looks like this. Now when you push that in, the bottom legs extend out and hold that in place. So I jiggled around the strut brace a little bit, and that let me pull out this plastic cowling. And that should be almost nearly there to the 6th coil pack. And with all the cowling removed, you should be able to take the foam from behind the engine and pull that out. So that's done. And with that done, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 6th coil pack, and now you can do your spark plug change. And from there, you should be able to use an E8 external Torx to loosen up the screws on the coil packs. Easy enough. Now, normally, if you were doing coil packs along with these spark plugs, you would unclip these right here, but I'm not replacing the coil pack, so I'm gonna take the easy route. There we go. So I'm just gonna lay it right there, and then there is my spark plug. So to remove the spark plug from the engine, I got a 14mm thin-walled 12-point magnetic spark plug socket. It comes with this extension already attached, just I guess for simplicity. It was like 10 or 15 bucks on Amazon, pretty cheap. So let's just put that socket down into the engine bay. Let's break that loose. There we go. So once you have loosened it all the way, it is magnetic and the spark plug should come right out. All right, so here's a good view of my old spark plug compared to a brand new one. I didn't really think I'd be due for them quite yet, but maybe I was. So what I did was use this big torque wrench. I set it to 17 pound-feet or 23 Newton meters. So the next step is pretty simple. Just take your coil pack and slide it right back down in there. It will go right back in. Then you should be able to tighten the E8 screw back down. And now we can see all my old spark plugs. Now, none of them look particularly bad for any reason, which is a good thing, I guess. So right up next is going to be reassembly of all of the crap that I have sitting on my table. All right, well, I removed the 2 bolts holding the strut brace in all the way up top there because I was having trouble fitting the foam back and this was in the way and it was already loose. So hopefully that'll help. Yeah, so removing that strut brace was definitely helpful in getting the foam put back in place. Now this should fit right around the high pressure fuel pump there, kind of just like that. And everything should be clear here. There's a little groove that lines these up. And on the other side, there is a post for the engine cover that sticks through it. And the foam should line up right through there and sit flush behind everything. So with the strut brace removed, that'll also make this next step much, much easier. You want to line the plastic cowling up along the back here. I'll come right back in a second when I figure this out. Oh, is that it? Is that it? Remember, this has to line up down here. I'll be right back. Okay, so problem solved. I was trying to bring the cowling over this here. Don't do that, it goes underneath. So as you can see, that bolt is lined up. All these are lined up all the way down. And on the other side, they are also lined up. It kind of just falls into the right place. So if you fiddle with it enough, if you take the strut brace off, it is much easier. So I've slid the strut brace back into place over there, and it is lined up on both bolts here. So what I'm gonna do is take this opportunity to put this screw or bolt right back in. It should hand thread pretty easily. So if you actually take a peek under the plastic cover here, you'll be able to guide yourself into the holes for these E20 bolts. It's hard to see from above from this angle. So if you crouch down a little bit, you can see them line right up. All right, so all the E20 bolts are finger tight, and now I'm gonna go back and tighten them down to 30 Newton meters. All right, so with the strut bar back in place, we should be able to put all these screws back in that held in the plastic cowling, that one in the back. Now, might I lose these bolts in the engine bay? Yes. Would that be tragic? Yes. Will I cry? Most definitely. So don't do that. All right, so now to hand tighten the ones on this side. All right, so now we're going back and tightening these ones. And I almost forgot the 4th one, which is not the same as on the left side, right down here. So that fully tightens up this center plastic cowling. Now remember this little guy, you are gonna have to put him back here. So if you put the weather seal back into place, this should line up with that center piece that we just tightened down. Right around there. Goes right through there, and then it should keep that in place. So you should be able to push it right in, and then this should just push right down, and that should secure it in place. Now to put the plastic caps back in the center here, those should just snap right in theory. There we go. Now before I go any further, I'm gonna see if the car actually starts up and I did everything okay. I don't have the key in my pocket. That'll help. Let's try this again. Oh, she works. So now that I know the car actually works, I'm gonna go ahead and put the weather stripping back on. Now it should just push right onto this ledge all along here. All right, so now I took way too much effort to put that weather stripping back in and run the wire all along the bottom edge of it. All right, so this should just slide right back into place there. Now you want to make sure that you line it up over there. You want it to line up pretty much just like that with the centerpiece. All right, so the centerpiece just slid right in and it clips down below. Now you want to make sure to make this center bit up here line up the way this does here on both sides. So similar to the other side, just slide it right in. So it clips into place down there. And make sure it's lined up over here. Now, as I mentioned before, you see how that center bit is below and this outer bit, that needs to be above it. As you can see right here. So now it's time to tighten these 3 bolts again. And the final piece of my puzzle is to put this cover back into place. Now there are some rubber grommets that it just lines up into. And I lied to you, the final piece of the puzzle rests right behind me, the engine cover. Now once that is back on, we are all set. We have a completed spark plug change on an M240i or any F-chassis B58 vehicle. And now that that is complete, let's take her out for a drive. So after some driving around, I think it is safe to say that it runs much smoother than it did before, and it really doesn't even feel like the same car. So anyways guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.